You're having this whole discussion about the whole dialogue is about who is karma, what is karma, and who is karta. Kindly mute yourselves, and whether this whole imagination that the Atma is doing some karma is logically defensible or not. And Bhagavan summarily proves in his arguments there are two, three objections. Number one, that Gauni Britya. So if you can sort of imagine the way somebody addresses Prakashji, maybe you can mute your microphone. So Gauni Pritya, it's quite possible that sometimes the line, a person is like a lion, sometimes we say, but we don't mean it. And in order to be able to use this figurative speech to refer to somebody as fire or as a lion or as an elephant, you should have a clear distinction between a lion and a human being. Then only you can have this kind of a comparative reference. But if you do not know the difference, you're confusing the human being for a lion, then you are completely confused. And that is not forgivable. This is based on mithya pratyaya. This cannot be a figurative speech. And then there is another doubt because the Shruti Pramanas, the Vedic injunctions, are talking about some karma that you do this, you do that. So, how could you think about the validity of these Vedic injunctions without accepting the fact that the Vedas do recognize that there is a certain agency or certain Atma which is different from the body? The Mimamsakas accept the Atma is different from the body because the Atma will go to Swarga. This body, the mind, cannot go to Swarga. So that is also a kind of a reference he tried to do. But then that was again refuted. That this is sometimes the Vedas do mention, but they are absolutely not referring to the real self. The Vedic injunctions actually refer to the avidyaka atma bhava. Whenever there is that ignorance, then only you have that aham pratyaya, dehadu aham pratyaya, this body is mine, that kind of a thing can happen. He said a very powerful tad bhave bhavat. Tad bhave means tad avidya, if when there is a presence of this avidya. So when you have this avidya pratyaya sati, when you have avidya pratyaya, you will definitely have dehadu atma bhava, dehadu atma pratyaya. Tad abhave, so abhavat, and when you do not have this avidya, you don't confuse your body and mind as yourself. That he explained. Now, to the this particular person, he's trying to say that somewhere, if you talk like this, then the Vedic injunctions are having a bit of a yattu uktam shruti pramanyadeti na tat pramanyasya adrushta vishayatvat. The Vedic injunctions do mention about Swarga and other things. They are adrushta vishaya because through direct perception we cannot say Swarga. So that is called bhutarthavada. Abadita anadhikata jnana you would have about something, but there is not no anuvada, you don't know it before. And there is no other way you can know it through pratyakya or anumana. So you refer to this astra. That after death, if you do this ritual, you go to Swarga, because Swarga, you cannot do an anumana and you cannot do an inferential or logical analysis to prove there is the existence of heaven. Or we cannot prove the existence of there is an afterlife through anumana. There are certain anumanas the Nyayikas gave, but still it's a little difficult. Therefore, we refer to this whatever in Loka Vyavahara, there is no other way we can know it, therefore we refer to the Shruti Vakya. Now, Bhagavan sort of continues that the Shruti Vakya is not talking about Deha as Atma, no. Because Atma is not Deha that can be logically explained here and now. Because when you say, this is my body, this is my mind isn't happy, my body isn't feeling well, then obviously you are clarifying that there is somebody who is different. And you're saying, my mind isn't working, my willpower is weak, my mind is traveling all around. So we have to remove all this. There is somebody who is saying all this, and who is that? Where from all this is coming? Sometimes you say, I am ignorant about it. Even there is something which is able to witness the fact of your ignorance. And what is that? That is the Pratyek Chaitanya or Shakti Chaitanya, the witness self. And that is Nirvikara. And that is Ashrishta. It's not connected with anything. It's Asanga. Therefore, Bhagavan starts saying that we cannot talk like this. You cannot have an illogical interpretation of the Vedic injunctions. What does he say? Nahi Shruti Satam api Shitaha Agnihi Aprakaso va iti Bruvan Pramanyam Upaiti. If a person says the winter, the fire, that Hima, or for example, there is no difference. The snow is actually ice. Or you cannot say that the winter, the coldness, whatever low temperature, equivalent to that. This is Prakasha Rupa, is visible. It's like light. No, you cannot say that. You're talking about a cold night, and you cannot say it's equivalent to Agni. Nobody is going to accept it because that is pratyakshena badhita eva. That is the most mukhya pramana is pratyaksha, direct perception. So you can refute it. No, Shastra says no. There must be some other way in which this is mentioned. There, that is why Bhagavan says, Yadi Vruyat, if it says Veda Sita Agni, that cold temperature, low temperature, Sita is Agni. If it says at all, Aprakashova, and no, the Agni is Aprakas, so Agni cannot be visible. If someone says like that, Tat athapi arthantaram shrutihe vivakitam kalpyam pramana anyatha uvapattehe. Then you must figure out what are the other ways you can make sense of that sentence. Otherwise there can be no pramanya in this particular sentence. That Sita and Agni, they're completely opposite to each other. Similarly, you cannot say Agni and Aprakasha. Agni is always Swaprakasha Rupa. The fire does, it's luminous. You cannot say it's darkness. Fire is dark. You cannot say like that. So you have to find Arthantaram Shritehe Vivakitam Kalpyam Pramana Anyatha Upapattehe. Anyatha Anupapattehe. Otherwise, we cannot prove that this sentence is valid. So in order to accept that this sentence remains valid, we have to do kalpana of what else it can mean. We have to figure it out. Natu pramanyantara viruddham swavachanam viruddham va. And the Vedas never say something which is invalidated by direct perception. It will not say something that human beings generally swim in water and crocodiles fly in the sky. No, they will not. There must be some symbolic thing there. And swavachanam viruddha, because in the Upanishad, the Vedas verily say that the body and other things are not the Atma. There are several statements like this. Then karmanohu mithya pratyaya vat kartukatvad kartuhu abhave shrutihe apramanyam iti chet. Now this Purva Paksha, the defense law, is coming back with another argument. Karmanaha mithya pratyaya vat. Because if you want to do any karma, then you have to have a mithya pratyaya. You have to presume that you are the body and the mind. You have this ahankara. Idam mama kartavyam aham karishe, therefore I'll do it. That kind of a sentence you are saying. So you are having ahankara, referring to your, this karya karana sanghata, and then you're confusing that with the self. Why aham pratyaya has nothing to do with this body and mind. It should always refer to the self, but it is referring to the body and mind. So there is some mithya pratyaya. That mithya pratyaya is the cause of this particular action. If so, and this mithya pratyaya is giving a sense of agency, and then that kriya becomes justifiable or it makes sense. Kartuhu abhave, genuinely you are saying that karta doesn't exist. Why you are saying that is a mithya pratyaya? He's trying to get back at Advaita Vedanti, saying that your philosophy has a few holes, and I'm going to show them to you. He's saying, first of all, for any kriya, agency is required. For any presumption of agency, you have to have mithya pratyaya. You have to confuse your body and mind as yourself. Now, if you are saying Vedanta is right, and this is a mithya pratyaya, then everything is mithya. There is no karta actually. It's a false presumption that there is a karta, if that is the case. Shrutehe apramanyam iti chet. The Shruti is giving certain statements which are about a false self, because pure self cannot act. Veda says you do this, you do that. Who is addressed? Who is referred to? There, that is the question. Now, Bhashyakar Bhagavan says, Shankaracharya, no. Brahma Vidyayam Arthavatva Upapattehe. He says, no, don't talk like this. The Vedic injunctions have some importance and have relevance. He says, how? Bhagavan explains, look here. In the Brahma Vidya, which requires Antakarana Suddhi, it requires some Karya, some Suddha, Nishkama Yoga, and then, without Sankalpa, without Falasanga, you are doing something, Ishwararpana Vidya. These are all useful for purifying your consciousness. Even though they are all false, they are very useful. Therefore, these Vedic injunctions do not become completely irrelevant. Like, for example, the mother teaches the child, this is one, this is two, this is three, this is four. Look at it, this is the best example. Now, this is actually not one, this is not two, this is not three, but this is how we started counting. And then we realize there's something called a series of natural numbers. We know what is one to infinite. We know that. So, similarly, here he's saying that no, in Brahma Vidyayam Arthavatva Upapattehe, it has relevance, it has meaning even in Brahma Vidya, is a upaya of getting the yogyata for Jnana Nishtha. Therefore, apramanya, and then he's coming back again. Karma Vidhi Shrutivat Brahma Vidya Vidhi Shrutehe Apramanya Prasanga iti cheti. Oh, really? Because tam etam, this yagyena danena tapasa anasakena brahmana vividi santi. In order to know this atma, the Brahmins, the wise guys, the students of Vedas, they do jagyena danena tapasa anasakena, by fasting and all kinds of vratas. They try to know the self. So this is a vidhivakya for atma jnana nishtha. Or again, there are 2-3 points which are raised there. Whether Vividisa, the goal of this karma is in fact to create a desire or to actually to know, and it has been explained. It's not to create that desire, because desire cannot be a sadhya. You don't need to work to create a desire to have an ice cream. If you want it, you will have it. So there's a bit of debate there, and the conclusion is no, it actually means that you are going to do it. But somebody says, then do it together. No, it's not about together. You first do it, Antakarana Shuddhi happens, then you can start meditating on the self. You study the Upanishads. That Vidhivakya, this guy is saying, if you are saying that these Vedic injunctions are only meant for anatmagya, somebody who is ignorant of the self, and then you are saying, okay, it seems he's stretching it further. He's saying, like karma vidhi shrutis, all these shrutis were saying, they are not fundamentally real. They are meant for the people who are trying to purify themselves, cleanse their mind, dust their mind off, they remove the dust, the old sanskaras. Then he said, Brahma Vidya Vidhi Shrutehe Apramanya Prasanga. He's saying, like those vidhis you are rejecting as less important. I can also say this Brahma Vidya Vidhi, that doing karma, you purify, meditate on the self. These are also useless. Na Badhaka Pratyaya Anupapattehe. Tell me, what is the Badhaka Pratyaya? So you think this is a horse. The Badhaka Pratyaya, that is Jada, and this is actually this is just a balm, for headache and stuff like that. It's a pain balm. So Badhaka Pratyaya is available here. He's saying there is a statement about the self. The self is not the body and this and that. There are so many statements. Now, what is the Badhaka Pratyaya? Is there any other proof you have that that is not the self? So that is how he's arguing. Yatha Brahma Vidya Vidhisritya Atmani Avagate. Now, with this Brahma Vidya Vidhi that you do Antakarana Shuddhi, then you have a lot of meditation, a lot of Vidyas are there in Chandogya Upanishad and different other, like Omkara Upasana and all. Then you have Atma Jnana, Atmani Avagate. Once you know the Atma, you know the self, Dehadi Sangahate Aham Pratyayo Badhyate. Then you no more treat your body as yourself. The Aham Pratyaya, Aham Asmi, that's all you can say. I am. Aham Brahmasmi, you may or may not add, but I am Aham Asmi. I am that. Because the reverse is Tat Tvamasi. The Shastra says you are that. So you'll say, I am Aham Asmi. I am that. Right? Now, Aham Asmi, that much is true. You exist. That is true. Aham Balakosmi, Dirghosmi. These are all faulty analysis of the self because it's Niravayava. It doesn't have any physical dimensions. You are attributing dimensions to it, isn't it? Because once we bring in dimensions, then Jiva Brahma Aikya cannot be established. Because the Brahman is without any dimensions. Because it is Desa Kala Vastu Paricheda Sunya. Therefore, we cannot bring in these kind of adjectives. That I'm a young man, I'm an old man, I'm a girl, I'm a boy, I'm an animal, whatever. These things don't mean anything here. Now, therefore, he's saying, this pratyaya, I am aham asmi. Tell me what proof you have to refute that I don't exist. Do you have any proof as such? Tatha atmani eva aham pratyo badhyate. But that I am old, I'm an old man, that can be refuted. I'm an old man, yes. Because when you were a child, did you exist? Yes. Were you old? No. The old man part, which is added to the self, that is an appendage, useless thing. Remove it. Because you was there as a child. I'm a young, handsome person. Were you not there as a baby? Would you not be there as an old person? So the youthful appearance that you have has nothing to do with the self. Then that can be discarded. But I am, try to discard it. You cannot, because you are there. Therefore, he's saying, Badhyate tatha atmani eva atma avagati. Then he's saying, this atmani atma avagati, the awareness of the self in the self, is a little complicated. The awareness of the self as the self. There is no mithya pratyaya. Na kadachit kenachit kathanchit. This thing, kadachit, in any time, kenachit, by anyone, kathanchit, in any manner, api badhitum na sakya. That atma cannot be refuted, that atma jnana. Atmani atma pratyaya. Dehado atma pratyaya can be refuted. Atmani atma pratyaya, the awareness of the self in the self, cannot be refuted by any other proof. Please give me a proof. He's saying, Phala abyatireka avagatehe. Now, this Atma Jnana, there is no other phala. That itself is the phala. If somebody says, okay, you are studying Upanishad, so what are you trying to have? My goal is to have self-knowledge. So उससे क्या होगा? No, उससे कुछ नहीं होगा. उससे सब हो गया. आत्मज्ञान के बाद क्या होना है? और कुछ नहीं होता है. That jnana itself is the result. It's not technology or computer science that if you have knowledge of it, you'll apply it into something. That is the goal of life. Because sarva anartha gets removed. All the hassles of our consciousness are removed when we have self-realization. So there is no different phala that you will also be rich, also will be powerful, or you will have 20,000 or 20 million devotees of yours. No, those things are not there in Vedanta. That itself is the phala, that you have self-awareness. Phala vetirika vedage jatha agnihi ushnaha prakasah cha iti. Right? For example, if you say that the fire is luminous, if somebody mentions that statement, fire and luminous, what is the follow of this? Is that so? If you say this, then you can use the fire to see something. Okay, and then if you say that agnihi ushnaha, fire is hot, then it will be useful in cooking and in winter. So there is some different follow of this particular statement. But in the Atma, I am that, there is no different follow other than Ajnana Nivriti. Nacha karma vidhi shrutehe apramanyam. Then Shankaracharya comes back because he respects the Vedanta, Vedas, even though Vedanta refutes much of karma kanda. Shankaracharya says no. The karma kanda part is not irrelevant. They are relevant for people who are trying to ascend to a level of self-awareness. Without karma kanda, all these things also not be possible. Purva purva prabrti nirodhena. So the older sanskaras you remove. Like somebody is lazy, somebody is addicted to something, somebody is doing a lot of sastra pratisiddha karma. Uttorotara apurva prabrti jananasya. And you create some punya in you, and then antakarana suddhi, purva papa kshaya, and uttara punya janama. Then you move in that way. The consciousness becomes sharper and subtler. Pratyag Atma Abhimukhya, and then you are more oriented towards that witness self. You slowly lose interest in the external world. Prabhuti Utpadanarthatvad, because it creates that interest in you to know the self. Okay. Mithyatu api upayasya upaya satyataya. The upaya is mithya. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Is it satya? Is it actually 4? It's not 4. Is it 5? Not 5. But what is the upaya? To know upaya. The goal is to know what is 5. And by having this mithya pratyaya, I'm having a proper understanding of that natural number, the value of 5. Therefore, this is also true. It's not completely false. It's useful in knowing that. Similarly, this karma kanda, yes, it involves mithya pratyaya, but not irrelevant. that helps us. Puja and tarpana and pranayama, japa, all that bheda buddhi. This Vedant padle sab kyun karna hai? No, but actually that's a tall order to reach there, and therefore we have to do all that to stabilize our mind and dissociate our mind, our body, our sanskaras, our tendencies from older ways of getting affected by things, getting addicted with things. We might read all Vedanta, that's fine, but it's very difficult to because the brain, the mind that we have is like the tail of a dog. We have to straighten it. You might say it's impossible. No, it is possible. And then we have to work on it again and again. We have to work on it, and we have to understand why it behaves the way it does. And then it requires, it's quite possible that you have done your Vedanta class, you are in a very good meditative mood, and you have requested somebody to do something, and it did exactly something which contradicts what you had advised. Let's imagine your wife or daughter or son. And it's quite possible that you're losing your temper and realizing, how stupid am I? I'm losing my temper. Well, what do? At that moment in Vyavahara Dasa, that can happen. Therefore, this journey towards purification of the consciousness is not a short one. There is no crash course. And therefore, the Buddhists keep repeating, the habitual tendencies of the mind, which keeps creating causes and conditions for faulty behavior, have to be understood and worked on. We have to understand them, and they have to work on them. It's basically a part of our nididhyasana with additional awareness and additional emphasis on a bit of mindfulness, watching our mind, and these are very important things. Mithyati upayasya upaya satyataya, because the goal is true. Satyatum eva sya tatha arthavadanam vidisheshanam. So there are certain Vayurvek Hepishta Devata. Then you do Vayu Jajana, you do some Vayu, you do some Dravya Tyaga for the Vayu Devata. You want to have quick answers to your problems. The Arthavada Vakya, Dagdha Aswavat, we had that earlier. There are two charioteers going. One person broke his chariot. The other guy actually lost his horses. So Dagdha Ashwa and Nashta Ashwa. So the horses died because of something. He doesn't know how to move forward. And he finds another charioteer. There's a fire accident and his chariot got burned, but the horses have survived. What do they do? They come together. Two horses from one side, the chariot from another side, they pack everything, and they together travel back to the town. Similarly, wherever there is a Biti Vakya, it's not very clear what to do. We have to look at, is there any Arthavada Vakya? That Arthavada can provide the Iti Kartavyata Jnana. If you remember, we had a long discussion on that in chapter 18 while doing Madhusudana Saraswati. Similarly, the Arthavada Vakyas, where there is no additional proof, the Arthavada Vakya will give you why to do it. What is the Iti Kartavyata? What is that Falasruti? They give you some knowledge. Same here is saying the Arthavada Vakya is not genuinely true. However, Vajrahasta Purandaraha is saying this. So if you worship Indra, you get a lot of force and power because his hands are very strong. Now that statement is actually just Stutyartha. It's just to in praise of Lord Indra. It extols and that's it. However, that statement of extolling Indra, there is a secret there. It gives significance to what you do. It has indirectly some pramanya. It is used as a proof for a certain activity to be done. Similarly, this whole set of Vedic injunctions can also be interpreted as useful for purification of the consciousness. Loke api balo unmadanadinam payado payitavye chudavardhanadi vachanam. So what happens is there's a boy. He's very mischievous. And the mother has to give him some milk. Otherwise, this boy will not drink. So what does the mother do? He has to get hold of him. And then what the mother does, he said, Apka, I have to do a hairdo. Your head doesn't look very good. The little girl walks out, the mother gets hold of the baby. And then, of course, she does the hairdo for the girl and then gives her a glass of milk. You have to drink it. Similarly, there's a person, one mother, is a mad person in a sanatorium. What the doctor does, he says, yeah, we have to do this, that, and this guy is sleeping. He says that we have to give you injunctions. Some injection has to be given. He knows this guy is scared of it. Then he wakes up. Otherwise, he would refuse food, and he would fight with others. But he understands that there are security guards coming. they're going to give some physical pain to him, a few injections. So he gets up. He says, "What injections? Why? I have already taken my medicine." "Yeah, but that medicine is not working." "No, why?" "Because you haven't taken your dinner. This is your dinner. Would you like to take it, or we give directly an injection? Because the medicine you have taken is not working." Then he takes the food. Similarly, these karma kandas are useful even though they are not relevant in order to achieve a higher end. And what is that? To get yogyata or qualification for jnana nishta. In a beautiful way, Bhagavan explained it. Prakarantara sthanam cha sakhyati karma vidhis, who are there in somewhere else. Sthanam cha sakhyat eva pramanya siddhi prag atmagyanat dehabhimana nimitta pratyakshadi pramanyavat. And he's saying, till of atmagyana, they are also vyavaharika satya. Like you don't have atmagyana. Don't you treat your hand, this is my hand, this is this. You don't say neha nanasti kinchana, there is only one thing, the self, everything else is illusion. You don't say this. Only after reading a lot of Vedanta, maybe with a lot of difficulty, finally you say that all it's like a dream. The real truth is that isness, which is all pervading. That sadrupa, asti bhati rupa. Very difficult to reach there. Where you accept everything is real, isn't it? Same way, the karma paraka vidhi vakyas are also relevant and also real. Because the student is in a state of avidya, slowly waking up, it will take a little time. When he reaches the waking up from sleep happens immediately. As Swami Paramarthananda says, waking up from sleep takes 1 second. It happens on your own. When there is the karma, the force of karma, which allowed you to sleep, when that karma again becomes jagarita, it wakes up, then you also wake up. Because you have to suffer and stress yourself and do as per your prarabdha. That particular day you have to do some work. You wake up. But waking up from this waking state to the next higher stage of self realization is a long process. It doesn't happen automatically, it happens after a lot of efforts and perseverance. Therefore, he's saying, Pragatma Jnana Dehadi Abhimana Nimitta. So, Dehadi Abhimana Nimitta Nimitto Yasya. Tasya, the karma vidhi, all these kind of karma vidhis which we do. Pratyakshadi pramanya, but the way we see certain things when you consider them real, vyavaharataha, same way, these karmas are also fine, not a problem. Yattu manyase soyam avyapriyamanaha, even though the self is not having any vyapara, is not involved in anything. It is Shakhi Chaitanya. Even then, the Purvapakya says, by being verily present in the self, like, for example, there are 20 children playing, and the class monitor is also present. And there's a big fight. The class teacher comes in. Whom does he shout at and punish? The monitor. What you're doing? They were having some, and there was a minor accident. The one boy threw a piece of stone on the other. Somebody got injured. Quite possible, isn't it? Similarly, he's saying this Atma is verily present in everything. Now, if the Atma is present in everything, even though it's not having any vyapara, it's not getting into anything, it is the boss. Shouldn't it be held responsible for any kind of karma? And he's bringing in the example of a, magnet. The magnet is not moving, but it is attracting the pieces of iron, dust, or stuff like that. It pulls them around towards it. Similarly, the Atma can be held responsible for some kind of vyapara in which it is not involved. That is the Purvapakya argument. What does he say? Let's listen to it. Yattu manyashe swayam avyapriyamana. It is not having vyapara, the self. Api Atma Sannidhi Matrena, by being physically present, because the Atma is in all of us. And in the this Karyakarana Sanghata, this whole Sthula Sarira, Sthula and Shukshma Sarira together, they're doing a lot of activities. So Atma is involved. Why? Because by sheer presence. Koromi tad eva cha mukhyam kartutvam atmanaha. So let us say that the Atma is the Mukhya Karta. Why? He's giving the example. Yatha Raja Yudhyamaneshu Yodheshu Yudhyate. Iti prasiddham swayam ayudhyamanaha. The king doesn't fight, but the soldiers are fighting. And then isn't the king the Mukhya Karta? But it's not doing anything. Same way, let's say Atma is doing everything. Api sannidhanat eva jitaha parajita, because the king was involved. People say the king lost the war, it won the war by his sheer physical presence. So iti cha tatha senapatihi vacha eva karoti kriyafala sambandha, but actually the general who is giving some directions and managing the columns of the soldiers, so he is responsible. The king gets the blame or the reward of the whole process. Why can't we hold the self as responsible for all the kriya, karma, and everything? Cha ragyah senapateh cha drishtah tatha cha ritvik karma yajamanasya. And the ritvik is doing all puja and everything. Jajaman is sitting in a corner and he's not doing anything. The mukhya karta is who? The prayojya karta is the mukhya karta. There is a prayojaka karta who is making things happen. But there is a prayojya karta who is हमने खाना बनवाया. Actually, the cook, the poor lady, that maid in Indian conditions, she is the one who has cooked these lovely dishes and recipes. And he proudly says, "So how was the food?" And people are clapping and they're happy and they're praising that particular, that landlady or the man who had invited people for a party. But the maidservant, the lady, is standing in the corner and she's feeling miserable. Nobody is thanking her. And the lady of the house, she doesn't even show a word of gratitude towards this lady who has worked for several hours cooking so many dishes. It can happen in unequal social conditions. So, but she takes the reward, and if something is very funny, tastes very bad, people look at her and she takes the blame. So, why can't the Atma be considered to be the agent for whatever karmas which are happening to us? तथा देहादिनाम कर्म आत्मकृतम स्यात्. Why can't you argue that whatever the body is doing, mind is doing, the self is doing? Tat phalasya atmagamitvad, because the phala, the jivatma suffers, isn't it? The body does some, the body by mistake killed somebody. Who suffers? The jivatma suffers, it goes to naraka or swarga. Tatha cha brahmakasya, brahmaka is the here which moves things, that is the chumbak, the magnet. Loha brahmaitritvad, it keeps that iron can move around it. अव्यापृतस्य एव मुख्यम एव कर्तृत्वम तथा च आत्मनः इति. So the magnet has a crucial role to play in the moment of the, this iron dust. Similarly, we can argue that the Atma is the main karta. That is his argument. And how the Siddhanti answers it, tad asat, that is not true. Akurvataha karaka prasangat. So somebody who is not doing anything, you are attributing karaka, this karaka sambandha. Unhone kiya, he did it, and he's trying to achieve something. Actually, he's not doing anything. He's not a karta. Because karaka says swatantra karta. He's independent. He's actually doing something. Karakam aneka prakaram iti chet. And he's saying, no, karak bahut prakar ke ho sakte hain. Jaise, you can say prayojya karta, prayojaka karta, something like that. The Purva-paksha, the student is, the defense lawyer is saying is, the Siddhanti says, no, don't talk like that. Raja prabhritinam mukhyasya api kartutvasya darsana. In case of the king example you are giving, actually the king is verily the mukhya karta, the main actor. How? Even though he is the prayojaka karta. He is the mukhya karta, I'll tell you how. Raja tavat swaveparena api yudhyate. He has organized the whole war. Putin is not actually fighting in the war field. What people are saying, Putin is doing, because he's directly involved in the whole story. Yodhanam yodhitritvena dhanadanena cha mukhyam eva kartritvam. Then he gives salary to these people, declares rewards for them, gives them some a lot of bonus to the family members if the soldier gets killed. So eva kartritvam tatha jaya parajaya phala upabhoge, and then the war is won or lost. People are going to remember Putin. They are not going to remember other people or Zelensky, either of these two. तथा यजमानस्य अपि प्रधान त्यागेन दक्षिणादानेन च मुख्यम एव कर्तृत्वम. The Yajaman is sitting there. When the Dravya Tyaga is happening, that Yaga, Devata Uddeshana Dravya Tyaga, that sacrifice, the milk or ghee or whatever you're putting in the fire, who is doing the Sankalpa? Sankalpa is done by verily this person, the Yajamana, who has paid the money. The Dakshina, he pays a heavy fees to the Brahmin priest who is arranging this Chandipatha, arranging this particular Brata, Navagraha Puja or anything. Therefore, he is the Mukhya Karta. Actually, the priest who shouts and does a lot of gesticulations, he does all the mantras and the mudras, everything, he actually Gauna Karta. He is just an instrument in the hands of the guy who is organizing it. Tasmad avyapritasya kartutva upacharo yaha sa gauna iti avagamyate. And therefore, he is saying, don't compare the king and the Yajamana with the Atma. Atma has no Sankalpa. Yajamana has Sankalpa, the Raja has Sankalpa. They have a resolution, we want to do it. Then they are arranging things to happen. Therefore, they are taken to the jail for anything wrong. In case of Atma, there is no real Kartutva. It's Nirvikara. Therefore, whenever you say, I aham karomi, That's because of mithya pratyaya, number one. Number two, that's also gauni. That Vedic injunction that one must do it. This is actually gauna prayoga, figurative speech, nothing else. Upachara eva. That is just a manner of saying that you are doing it. Actually, you're not doing it. Yadi mukhyam kartutvam. Then if you are saying that actually the self is having mukhya kartutva or the main agency, स्वव्यापारलक्षणं न उपलभ्यते राजयजमानप्रभृतीनां तदा सन्निधिमात्रेण अपि कर्तृत्वं मुख्यं परिकल्प्येत यथा भ्रामकस्य लोकब्राह्मणेन न तथा जजमानादीनां स्वव्यापार न उपलभ्यते. Now don't bring in that example of that magnet which is causing the sawdust to come and gather. If you have a plain piece of paper, they'll come and gather on the opposite side, very close to that magnet. But that is not the case. The Raja and the Yajamana, the king and the person who is organizing a certain ritual, they're verily, mentally, physically, they're very much involved. And they are organizing it. So that particular thing cannot at all appear here. Because that is actually, they are having swavapara. They're deliberately doing it. Tatha sati tat phala sambandha api gaunaha evasya. And then the phalas which I mentioned, that you will go to Swarga, that if you do this Pratisadha karma, you will go to Narka. It's all about Jivatma. It's not about the real self. And the Jivatma and all, avidyaka. Once you have this fear and you would like to do it, so far you have ignorance. Once you study the Upanishads and all, you will lose interest in doing Soma Yaga and all. You will do Nitya Namitika karma, the basic minimum. Kamya karma, you will say, so the Durati Havaram karma, don't consider them important. Even from a distance, you discard them. You focus on the bare necessities of karmas. The rest of the time, you would like to do your upasanas, your meditation, and read text for self-knowledge, for self-awareness. Na gaunena mukhyam karyam nivartyate. Now, if there is actually a mukhya karya that you have to do it, can you do it through a gauna personality that he has earlier refuted? If you are saying it's a figurative space that this man is a lion, no, he is not going to kill other animals like the human being cannot do it. It's just referred to as that is Tuti Paraka. Similarly, he's again repeating now gaunena mukhya karyam nivartyate. The real work cannot be done by a figurative speech by which you are referred to. Tasmad asad eva etad giyate dehadena vyaparena avyaprata atma karta bhukta sasyadeti. And therefore he's saying this is completely a faulty way of saying that deha and the indriya vyapara, the body and the senses, using which we do these activities, whether it's psychological, mental, ritual, or which is prohibited, whatever you're doing, actually the self has no role. Therefore, we just say this because of a faulty way of understanding. Bhranti nimittam tu sarvam upapadyate. But he understands. Bhranti nimittam, sarva karma. Bhranti nimitta yasya karmasya. Bhranti nimittam yasya karmasya tat. Bhranti nimitta karma. So because of a faulty understanding, because of a mithya pratyaya, so there is a piece of nacre, or there's a piece of what you call a seashell is lying on the beach, and in the morning you're walking, and below the morning sun, that particular seashell is dazzling, and you are running towards it, thinking that it is silver. You would like to have that silver coin. You're doing some activities. Is it based on some truth? No, it's a faulty understanding. That's a silver. Similarly, all these activities that we are doing is based on a faulty understanding that we will go to Swarga, do that. It's not that you won't go, you'll go. But that is all Vyavaharika. Genuinely, you haven't understood the secret. The secret is just to go beyond what is written in the injunctions. Bhranti nimittam tu sarvam karma upapadyate. All that. So all these things in samsara, they're based on ignorance and they appear real. Yatha swapne mayayam eva evam. Then the elephant is playing football and the golgi is actually a donkey. But the problem is that the left forward, which was a hen, he kicked the ball so hard that it went to the other corner where there was a chimpanzee. He passed the ball back to the golgi and he just defended. So there was no goal. Sounds very good. Doesn't make any sense. No, you saw that in a dream because you read some, children books on animal stories. So you saw that in a dream. There's nothing fundamentally real or unreal about it, just a dream. Then, therefore, he's saying, no, या भ्रांतिनमेव सर्वम यथा स्वप्ने मायायां च एवं न च देहादि आत्म प्रत्यय भ्रांति संतान Vichadeshu, a person in whom the Bhranti Santana is Pravaha, this whole chain of faulty understandings and repeat perception of certain things which are wrong as right. We keep repeating them. Now, for the person for whom this flow of wrong images is snapped, it's no more repeated because he has self knowledge. He's no more interested in this faulty ways of looking at things, these wild dreams of greatness or depression or high or exaltation, whatever. He's no more interested. But then susupti samadhyadishu kartutva bhaktutva anartha upalabhyate. And then a person, there are three categories of people. Either you are in deep sleep, or you are in samadhi, or you are Atmagyani. In any of these three cases, do you have Kartutva, Bhaktritva that I'm enjoying it? No, you're in deep sleep, no dreams there. And you get up and say, I had a lovely sleep. What did you do? You cannot tell. And then you are in Samadhi Avastha. Once you enter the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, then you do not even know you exist. There is only that pure consciousness. And finally, the Atmagyana, when you become Sarvavid, Atmavid, then also the whole Sansara, they exist, but you are not interested. You are, and then that Kartutva Bhaktutva completely badhita. So it doesn't happen. Tasmat Bhranti Pratyay Nimitta Eva Ayam Sansara Brahmo. This sansar ka jo brahm hai, this whole faulty understanding of sansara is real, that we have something very important to do. Yeah, we have to do everything, all important things to do, because we are just graduating in the process of niskama karma towards Atma Pratyaya. It's a long journey. But for the one who has reached that Jnana Yogyata he already has, Sansar Brahma, not to Paramartha iti samyak darsanat, Atyantam eva uparamam iti siddham. Therefore, as Bhagavan said in the chapter 18, that there are certain sannyasis. If you cannot take that sannyasa, you cannot get that sansiddhi, then you do bhakti yoga. First he mentioned you do the karma yoga. Then we doing these karmas, you will reach sansiddhi. That is jnana nishta. You will become matpara. You are failing. Okay, fine. Forget about sannyasa. Do bhakti. And I'll try to rescue out of the conundrum you call your life. That's what he sort of concludes this long dialogue on the verse number 66. Then this starts. Then rest of it is very easy. We'll try to do as many verses. I think tomorrow we'll be able to wind it up with Shankarabhashya. Then the remaining part we'll do the Madhusudana Tika after we have finished this. Sarva Gita Sastrartham Upasangritya Asmin Adhyaya Visheshatah Cha Ante Iha Sastrartha Dadhyaya Sankhipatah Upasangharam Kritva Atha Idanim Sastra Sampradaya Vidhim Aha. What is this Sampradaya Vidhi? In every parampara, there is a Sampradaya Vidhi. How to carry this forward? What did you study? What will you do with it? With whom do you share? What are the benefits? Falashruti. These are all there in every spiritual text in India. In the beginning, there will be Anubandha Chatushtaya. Who is the Adhikari? What is the Vishaya? What is the Sambandha? What is the Prayojana? These are the Anubandha Chatushtaya. In the end, there will be Sampradaya Vidhi. Who should you teach this to? What are the importance of this? Those kinds of conclusive remarks. He's saying, we have already mentioned the Sastrartha, karma is fine, and there is a bit of avidya involved. You shouldn't worry, you do it. Ishvara from Buddhya, then you graduate, do Jnana Nishta, read chapter 7, 12 onwards, and 13, 14, 15. Complete Jnana. And then there's a bit of clarification about how this whole game is going on in Sansara, the Trigunatmika avidya and its game. And then finally, these types of sannyasa, types of shraddha, all that mentioned. When the person is very matured, he knows how to handle life. Bhagavan again says, you do karma, then you do jnana, I'm going to help you. Then he says, you fail, okay, do a lot of bhakti, focus on me, continue to do your work. Stuti paraka. And then he concludes with a long remark. Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam. And then he's saying, he has already concluded Bhagavad Gita. Now there are some, ancillary things which are added to it to explain how this process of knowledge giving and knowledge taking is taken forward. Idam te na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na cha susruve vachyam na cha mam yobhyasuyati. Idam Sastram te tubhyam maya uktam. This is, he is not mentioned idam te. This is meant for you, my dear friend. Na atapaskaya. It's not meant for the people who do not do any tapas, who do not know how to take this train of purifying their consciousness. Na abhaktaya, and not meant for the people who do not have faith in me. You are not having shraddha. Kadachana, never. Nacha asusrave, maybe he has bhakti, but he is not willing to listen. He doesn't have that eagerness. He doesn't have the seva bhava. And then maybe he has that. Nacha mang yo abhyasuyati. Maybe he is ready to listen, but he is finding faults with me. He's more of a critic than a listener and a practitioner or a sadhak. Please don't give it to him. That's what he mentions. Idam sastram te tava hitaya maya uktam. It's for you that I have mentioned this. Sansara vichitaye. Why? Because I want to help you, enable you to do the Nishkama Karma Yoga, do Bhakti Yoga, get Jnana Nishtha, I think, and read sixth chapter, do a lot of meditation, get Samadhi, and then focus on me, and ultimately get to the ultimate level of Jnana Nishtha by reading the chapter 13 and 15 and all that I mentioned. So, and then Uktam Sansar Vichite, Atapaskaya means tapo rahitaya, somebody who doesn't do any tapas. Na vachyam iti vyavahitena sambhadyate. Na tapaskaya, na bhaktaya, na kadachana. Na vachyam, that is there after some time. So you have to add na vachyam everywhere. Tapaswini api, even the person is a very good at meditation. Abhaktaya, maybe he doesn't respect Guru, Deva Bhakti Rahitaya. He doesn't respect the Acharya, he doesn't respect any gods and goddesses. So it's very clear. A lot of people had questioned in the beginning, this Shankaracharya is going to make us completely godless. No, he's saying it shouldn't be given to people who are not bhaktas. So Bhagavad Gita says you have to have very subtle bhakti to be able to even understand what is mentioned here. Kadachana. Kasyanchid api avasthayam na vachyam. Please don't give it to those people. Kadachana. In no time. Bhaktaha tapasvi api san asrususu yo bhavati tasme api na vachyam. And then, if somebody is not very interested to listen, he may be wise, he may be bhakta also, but he's not interested, then don't give it to him because he's going to waste your time. Nacho yo mang vasudevam prakritam manushya matva abhyasuyati. There are other people who make a lot of funny remarks about Bhagavan Krishna. He had 16,000 girlfriends. I don't have two, right? So please don't talk to these guys who confuse me as a human being. Bhagavan has mentioned earlier, because of their agyana, they think actually ajopisan. I am like a magician. I am appearing as if I have a human body. I have no birth, no death. He has clarified that earlier. But people don't understand me. Please don't give it to them. Okay, abhyasuyati atma prasangsadi dosa adhyaropanena. He thinks he's very wise. Mama Ishwaratvam Ajanan, he doesn't know who am I, my Ishwaratya. Na sahate apai asu api ayogya tasmi api na vachyam. He doesn't deserve, he's not yogya, he'll not make use of it, and he doesn't have respect for it. Please ignore him. Bhagavati Bhaktaya, but those people who have respect and faith in the Lord, tapaswini, those who are very meditative, they have a bit of resolution, they have ekagrata, susrusave, and those who are desire to listen, they are great listeners. Anyashuyave, those are not by nature fault finding. Chavakyam sastram iti samarthyad gamyate. Then you have the capacity. They have done some sadhana, they have a bit of bhakti, they have reached a subtle state of sadhana. Then Bhagavad Gita can make a difference to their lives. Tatra medhavine tapasvinava iti anayoho vikalpa darsanat. In certain texts in Puranas, there are mentioned in case of tapasvini, that word is there, medhavine. Therefore, he's saying whether it is tapasvi or medhavi. Medhavi is very intelligent, has got sharp memory and intelligence. Or tapasvi, more or less, paryavasi, because without tapasya, you cannot have sharp intelligence. Because if you're very externally oriented, not having a mind, a bit of balance, you cannot have sharp intellect. But in case you have, then he's saying you can take either of them, makes no difference. Vikalpa darsana, susrada bhakti yutaya tapasvine, yad uktaya medha vinava vachyam. So you say he should have desire to learn, he should have bhakti. In addition to that, either he's a tapasvi or he's medhavi, makes no difference. You take either of them, makes the same sense. Susrada bhakti yuktaya, but this person, whether he's a medhavi or a tapasvi, he doesn't have he doesn't have bhakti, and he doesn't have what? He What is this? Sushruta Bhakti, yeah. He doesn't have the eagerness to listen and he doesn't have Shraddha. Then he's a great tapasvi or medhavi, ignore him. Bhagavati Asuya Yuktaya, and then there is a person who is finding faults with the Lord, making fun of him, writing a lot of newspaper articles, criticizing. There are a lot of people who do it. So, Samasta Gunavati Api Navachyam, and then he has all these qualities above. Doesn't have trust in God, makes fun of him. Stay away from him. Don't waste your time. Guru Sushrasa Bhakti Matecha Vachyam iti Sastra Sampradaya Vidhi. So essentially somebody who is having Guru Sushrasa and an opening towards the spiritual truth, that is the Sampradaya Vidhi he mentions in the verse number 67, 68. Sampradaya Sakartuhu Phalam Idanim Aha. Then a person who follows the Sampradaya Vidhi, what are the benefits for him? Ya imam paramam guhyam madbhakti sovidasyati bhaktim mai param kritva mame vaisyatya sangsayah. Ya imam paramam guhyam, this top secret Bhagavad Gita, imam sastram, paramam guhyam, param gupta, gopya sastra, madbhaktesu avidhasyati, who spreads it. He explains this among my bhaktas, those who have already their spiritual opening. Bhakti mai parakritva, and then he has that great shraddha in me. Mam eva esyati asangsaya, without doubt he gets me. Okay. Ya imam yathoktam paramam nishreyasa artham. Kesavarjunayoho sambadurupam grantham. This is the dialogue between Bhagavan and Arjuna. And this is meant for mukti, moksha, nishreyasa, not for abhyudaya, they are going to swarga. Grantham guhyam, very secret. Gopya madbhakteshu, mai bhakti matsu, those people who have faith in me. Avidhasyati, bhakshyati, he explains it to them. Granthatah arthatah. He explains the sentences and what is the meaning thereof, what we are trying to do by reading the commentaries. One is what are the sentences, and there is a hidden meaning behind it. It means something else, so that has to be explained. Like Vevasayatmika Buddhi doesn't mean you want to be like a trader. Vevasaya there means Nischayatmika Buddhi. So Granthatah arthatah cha sthapaishyati, who establishes it, ityarthaha yatha tvai maya, the way I explain it to you, same way somebody who does it, भक्तेः पुनः ग्रहणात् तद भक्ति मात्रेण केवलेन शास्त्र संप्रदाने पात्रम भवति इति गम्यते. So when he gives it by following this particular advice and these kinds of tips that I'm giving, then he also strengthens his own bhakti in me. Bhakti mai param kritva bhagavatah paramaguruho, then he sort of is devoted to me. I am telling it to you, I'm your guru right now. By reading Bhagavad Gita, we are connecting with Lord Shri Krishna. Parameshwara is our own guru because he is Yogeshwara Krishna. And then Paramaguruho Susrusa Maya Kriyate iti evam kritva ityarthaha. So as if we were listening to Bhagavad Gita from anyone. But the whole game will change if we think, oh, we are listening to the words of the Lord. Maybe this guy is imperfect. Maybe there are certain problems in the way he's dealing with it. But with my sadhana, I'm going to reach the inner meaning of it. Bhagwan will reveal it to us. And different people have different interpretations because of the grace of the Lord. Tasya idam phalam mam eva isyati muchyate eva atram sansayo na kartavyah. And then finally he gets me. Means all doubts are removed and he gets moksha. Kingcha, and he adds again. Nacha tasman manusheshu kassin me priyakrittamaha bhavita cha na bhavita nacha me tasmad anyah priyataru bhuvi. And he's saying, he's praising this particular student who is going to spread the Bhagavad Gita. Nacha tasma sastra sampradaya kruto manusheshu, those who follow this sampradaya and disseminate Bhagavad Gita among the people who are interested and loyal. It's like we did this, it took 1 year or so. At least one of you, I hope, will at least, study it and explain it in simpler words to anybody near you. One more person will benefit, isn't it? That is the Rishiguna. I mean, when I was taught by people and asked, sir, any dakshina? They laughed. He said, no, there is no dakshina in Vedanta Parampara. The only dakshina is that you have to study it, you have to master it, you read it again and again, then you try to give it to somebody else who will benefit. And that is how you have repaid your debt in our Parampara. That's how 5,000 years we have survived without universities. Because buildings can be burnt to ash, but the Parampara cannot be destroyed if it's a human process. So, mam eva esyati, and nacha tasmat manusheshu Kaschin me priyakrittama. No one is dearer to me than these people who follow this advice of mine and take my word to the people. Bhabita nachame tasmad anyaha priyatoro bhuvi. Even in future, nobody is going to be dearer to me than these people. Nacha tasma sastra sampadaya krito manusheship. Those people who follow this parampara of Vedantic dissemination. Manushyanam madhye, amongst them kaschid me mama priyakrittamaha. Somebody who is atisayana priyakrittataha. Somebody who does something which I find very favorable to me. I don't appreciate anyone more than the ones who follow my advice, which I'm giving here. Tataha anya priyakrittamo no asti eva ityartho vartamaneshu. Na cha bhavita, not even in future. Bhavishyati api kale. In future, tasma dityaha anyaha priyataro bhuvi loke asmin. On this earth, there shall never ever be anyone who will be superior to the one for following my advice. One more verse, if I can push it a little more. Yah api, and then he's adding. These are easy verses, there's nothing in them. Adhye satye chaya imam dharmyam sambadama vayoh jnana yagyena tenaham ishtah syam iti me matihi. Adhye satye, and then who studies it and who again explains it and continues patishyati, cha yaha imam dharmyam. This is because this is matter of this whole secret science of spiritual enlightenment. Dharmyam dharmat anapetam sambadrupam grantham, which is absolutely not disjunct. There is no disjunction or dissociation from these dharma grantha, the Vedas. This is same as Vedas. It's also considered as Upanishad. It's not contradicting. It's only saying that you do karma, you do jnana. There is some paryaya. It's not refuting anything in the Vedas and the Upanishads. So dharmyam. Sambadam avayoho, of you two, we two, that is Arjuna and Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna is saying, Sambada, this dialogue between you and me. Jnana yagyena tena aham ishtaha. And then he does it through jnana yagya. They do this Bhagavad Gita parayana, they explain it to others. Ishtaha. Syam iti me matihi, and then he will definitely get me and he's going to benefit out of it. And this is the Pallavi he is mentioning. Adhye sate cha patisati ya imam dharmyam dharmat anapihitam sambadrupam grantham. This particular Bhagavad Gita as a text, if he reads, which is basically summarizing, it's capturing, paraphrasing the dialogue between you and me, avayoho, between you and me, tena idam kritam syat. This is going to happen. Jnana jagyena. There are different kinds of yajnas we have studied earlier in chapter 4, if you remember. Vidhi yajna, japo, vidhi japo upangshu manasanam. So this manasa yajna is jnana yajna, Sravana, Manana, and Vidhyasana. And japa yajna, Bhagavan says, I am among japas, I am japa yajna. And then vidhi, all these karya, different kind of yajnas. And then japa, then upangshu, muttering all the time, name chanting, all this. Yajnanam jnana yajna manasatvat vishishthatamaiti ataha. And they do jnana yajna, discussing Bhagavad Gita and giving it to others. This is purest because it's all intellectual. It's the superior one. So jnana yajna Gita Sastrasya adhyayanam stuyate. That's being praised by Bhagavan. Sitting and doing Hare Ram, Hare Krishna is fine. But if you're reading Bhagavad Gita one chapter every day, and reading in 5 slokas and the meaning, you pick up any good book which is easy one to understand, then you will remember everything we have discussed. That is the superior way of meditating on God and connecting with the divine and connecting with oneself. There is no contradiction. Phalavidi evava devatadi vishya jnana yajna phalatulyam asya phalam bhavati iti. Otherwise, you can say that, like for example, you do any kind of, like we read a Purana or the Satyanarayana Pratagata Chandi Pata, or different kind of these jnana yajnas we do, the way we get some results, same way here will be fully fulfilled with the benefit of that enlightenment which is going to come your way by doing this jnana yajna. Tena adhyanena aham ishtaha pujitaha syam bhavayam iti me mama matihi nishchaya. This is verily there. If you do it, you don't need to bring in a lot of halwa and luchi and kheer and rasgulla or anything. You just read Bhagavad Gita and meditate on me. I consider this is a puja for me. Look how Bhagavan glorifies it. I think we have 8 more verses and have crossed the time. I think we'll be able to finish that tomorrow itself, or if there is something is left, we'll do that day after. And then we will do the Madhusudana Saraswati from where we have left from the verse number 66. Any questions you can ask? I'm putting an end to the YouTube.